And you are live, Miss Vivian, Princess Vivian.
Pretty woman.
Indeed. So, shall I start, or would you like to introduce yourself?
I think you can start.
Okay. So, welcome everybody to whatever the name of the call was that I can't recall off the top of my head. When you had all you can stand, with, as it's technically known, with the more professional Viv Adcock, who's going to come and talk to us about what the possibilities are beyond what you're currently creating, if what you're currently creating is not working for you. Is that correct?
Yes, when you've had all you can stand in your relationship, so whether that's a relationship with a spouse, with a family member, with somebody you work with, it came out of, basically I was speaking to Gary Douglas at Christmas, and I just basically left my marriage of 15 years after, I don't know, trying to make it work for about 5 or 6 years using the Access tools. And anyway, the space that opened up for me once I had made the choice, and really this isn't about staying or leaving, it's about looking and exploring at the options before you leave. So a lot of people think they've only got 2 choices, that they either stay or they leave. Well, there's infinite choices. It was just my experience through leaving the marriage actually gave me a whole new level of, wow, what's actually possible. Once you make a choice to commit to you, not necessarily to stay or leave, but when you commit to you and have your back in a way that you trust your awareness, you trust what you're getting the energy to do. So, but to get there is the journey. You know, I struggled a lot, and I've worked with a lot of people in clinic and with classes that they've got a million things not working, and they've got some things that are working, and they're weighing out whether they stay or leave or what's possible and how to change things. So the choice of this call for me was to explore and discuss with people and work with people that feel stuck, basically. Bottom line, wherever you feel stuck. Yeah.
Cool. Just one thing I meant to say before we started. Viv and I are going to be talking probably for about another 25 minutes or so. You feel free to pop any questions in the chat room, and we will try and kind of include them in the conversation as we have it. But also we may open it up at the end if we've got time for you to ask Viv direct questions. So don't come live at the moment, just pop them in the chat room, and we'll get to you if we possibly can.
And that's why scroll into the bottom of the screen and you'll see the little chat button.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So where do we even start with this, Viv? It's like, how do you, and I know we've kind of talked about some questions that we're going to be kind of covering, but specifically, I guess, how do you even know you're stuck?
Yeah.
That's a stupid question, but, you know.
Well, we become aware of there's a lack of joy, there's a heaviness, there's a feeling. To me it was like the walls were closing in, and the usual greeting the person when they come home, or the general enjoyment that you have with somebody starts to wane. It starts to get a bit flat, and it gets a bit, you know, you take each other for granted. And this whole thing about being stuck is where we're stuck in conflictual points of view. So when on one hand it's like, yeah, but they're a good person, you know, and we have some good times, and then on the other days it's like, oh God, he's driving me mad, or she's just being an absolute bitch at the moment, and so we have these conflictual points of view that we constantly swing between, as a way of trying to reconcile what we're actually dealing with in the relationship. So when we get stuck, it's because we've got these points of view, or this judgment, or an agenda even that we don't know that we've got, that's making us stay there, or it's actually putting the blinkers on that we can't see anything else beyond that because we're too busy reacting. So that's how I would describe feeling stuck. You know, it's like there's an internal sense of something more is possible, but you just feel every which way you turn, you just feel like you're hitting a brick wall.
Yeah. And you know what I notice with people in relationships, especially longer relationships, is that the shift is so gradual. Have you seen the film Shirley Valentine by any chance? Right. So there's a bit in that film where she sits there and she says, when did I stop being Shirley Valentine and become Shirley Bradshaw? Because it was just this like monotony of things, just like getting stuck. And it's not, this is what I mean. It's like she didn't even realize how narrow her life was until her friend took her to Greece. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
and people disappear very quickly, you know, once they're in a relationship. It's whether it's a friendship or whatever, but you tend to, like she said, when did I stop being Shirley Valentine? And you have a sense of who you are. You have a really strong sense of who you be, because those days when you're happy and exuberant and joyful and laughing and things are working for you, that's when you're being you. When things flow easily, when you're just, it's a natural way of being. And that gets eroded over time. And whether we do that to ourselves, we allow it to occur. And often in a relationship, we don't, it's so subtle and so insidious that it creeps in, like you say, like a mist. And so we start to lose ourselves as the relationship, it's like we entwine with each other and we lose that strong sense of ourselves. So yeah, that's a really big point.
And it's at that point when you are so entwined with that person that it's almost like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know that I'm stuck. I don't even know that this is kind of smothering me and killing both of us. So how do you tell whether you have an agenda in relationships or whether somebody else has?
Great question. Well, if you look at what's not working, if you look at where you get unhappy, if you look at where you react, it's like, right, well, what agenda do I have here? So
right.
One of the ways people realize, first of all, like you said, they need to realize that they are stuck. Then they start becoming aware of what's not working. Then they might start complaining about it, or asking, or taking action, or suggesting, or, you know, putting pointers out to the other person. And if the other person kind of dismisses it or doesn't really pay any attention to it or devalues it, then the person asking for more, that person they have a sense that they know more is possible. They know that they're not happy what they've got, the mediocrity. And for me, the biggest turning point for me was Gary said to me once, he said, you know, that sense of feeling like there's not enough in your relationship, or you think you're not enough, or there's not enough joy, or there's not enough time together, or whatever. He said, that is the energy of creation. So for me, it was that, oh my God. So every time I felt unhappy or dissatisfied or cranky, maybe I was running an agenda, but I became aware of the fact that there was something greater. And that tug, that nagging, it would come up. It was like a little Post-it note that would pop up in my head every now and then that says, you know, are you really happy? Are you really being you? Are you really choosing for you? Are you holding yourself back? Are you trying to maintain the status quo? Do you not want to hurt their feelings? There were so many conflictual points of view that were confusing me, and yet this little post-it would come up every now and then and say, you know, are you happy? Are you as happy as you know you can be? So I realized there was this level of mediocrity, and then, my God, you know, I heard myself say to a friend, it's not bad enough to stay, and it's not good enough to stay, and it's not bad enough to leave.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing.
That's a crappy point of view to function from.
So how do people change that?
Number one, getting aware of it. And it's that, you know how I said earlier, that sense of, God, I want to create something beyond this. And I kept looking at, well, what was it I wanted to create? And I couldn't really grasp a really strong sense of what it was, but I had that energy of, I know something, there's got to be something more than this. So, sorry, Alan, I totally dismissed your question. What did you say?
That's okay. I can't even, it's like, I can't even remember what the question was, but it was certainly there. It was like, how do you, do you know, what is, there's some funky energy there that's kind of clouding this, isn't there? It's really interesting. It's like when you...
And is that where we go? Just what you're addressing right now, is that the space that we go to when that we're not truly happy, but we're trying to make ourselves happy in a situation that we know is not truly honoring? And often you can't put your finger on what exactly it is. It's like this little subtle, sneaky energy that comes in from time to time that it just grates on you, it nags on you, but you just push it to one side and, you know, you try and make it work, and then you might have a couple of good days and then something else shows up, and So that possibly is the energy that you're addressing. But most people get
It's,
lost in that confusion.
yeah, it is. It's like the mind goes blank and you just think, oh, well, it can't be that important then, otherwise I would remember it. And so then you put it aside. And, I want to go back to something that you said earlier on, which is I don't want to hurt their feelings and stuff. It's like, how often do we put other people first in the relationship and exclude ourselves from the relationship, but still be part of the relationship? And that's the dichotomy, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I mean, the way that relationship is set up in this reality is that you give up parts of yourself in order to make it work. This whole notation of compromise. People just accept that, well, in order to make it work, you've got to compromise. And I'm like, why? Why should you have to? If you have two people that are totally happy within themselves, when they come together, they create something greater. They work with each other to create something greater. So for me, there was just, as soon as I started to realize, okay, does the person that I'm with actually desire to create this with me? I've got such a huge desire to create. Does this person actually have the same desire? And I went, oh my God, no. But the agenda was for him, I'll just keep saying this. I'll keep, doing lip service and I'm keeping her happy and just pretending. And then it took me, I don't know how long, to realize that, wow, I am offering something to him that he doesn't actually want. He's happy with his life. He's happy with the mediocrity. And so part of this is when one person in the relationship wants more, or they want to grow, or they want to travel, or they want to start a business, the other person feels threatened. And so the person wanting to create more then goes into, oh, but what if I hurt their feelings? What if I leave them behind? What if it means, and then again, the brain goes off into all these different, what if this and what if that, which creates this inertia. It creates this, your wheels are spinning in the mud, but you're not, that creative energy is there, but it's actually the gears aren't coming in. You're not choosing something because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. So you exclude you and what you can create in order to make the other person comfortable. We don't like to make other people uncomfortable. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that kind of come out of that I kind of, as I'm picking up on the energy of stuff, and it's, what if, so there's a question in the chat room here, which is, does creating something greater mean creating something together or just create separately? Sorry, let me just mute that, whoever that is. Yeah, so just like, so does that mean creating something together or separately, but still together, or separately?
Yes. Yes.
That makes sense.
So thank you, because that question is a great segue into, okay, so then if you have this desire to create and they don't, then what?
Yeah.
Then what? And this is
because it's almost, sorry, go on. I was going to say, it's almost like what you were saying before, which is it's not bad enough to leave, it's not good enough to stay. And there's this kind of, I desire to create more, they don't desire to create more, but it's still not bad enough to leave. So what do? Do I try and create it myself? And then there's also what happens when they tell you they want more, but they're not, they're not choosing it.
So, yeah, and this is where when you start to trust you more, when you have your own back more and you get rid of those conflictual points of view, it gets much more clear. You get more, like we said earlier, you include you more in your reality. You consider you and your future more. And that question that Gary asked, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? If I don't choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? That was my absolute torch through the fog when I was going through this, to find out, okay, this he does want to create with me, this he doesn't want to create with me. So how do you keep creating? Or do you stop and wait for somebody else? Do you try and include them? Your own situation is going to be very individual to you. So it's staying in the question and looking at, okay, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't? So, and the other one is, okay, so truth, does this person desire to create with me? So, and this is where you can start to work out with the energetic congruency of, okay, is what they're saying matching the energy? Does it make me feel Does it make me feel lighter? Does it make me feel heavy? And again, having your own back, trusting your awareness, you start to find your way into what is your reality. When you've been divorcing you for so long in a relationship, you have lost that sense of Shirley Valentine. You have lost that direct connection. So for me, this was a step-by-step process that every choice I made, I started to ask, okay, if I was choosing for me here, what would work for me? What would be honoring? And this is a key word for me through the honoring process. To honor means to treat with regard. So you're not just, not giving a shit and destroying somebody else, and you're not also destroying yourself. You're treating yourself with honor that, okay, if I choose this, is this going to create more? Will this create more for me and for them, regardless of what this is?
And that's the equation of kindness, isn't it? You have to include you have to include them. And I wonder how many people then, they look at what's going on in their relationship. And again, you're alluding to something really key for people, I get, is they want it all to change. They want it all to change like instantly, massively. And they're like, it's like, it won't necessarily happen that way. Because also, like, there's just so much in that. When you try and change everything in one choice, what's that going to create? And that almost kind of takes you to, there's another bit in the chat room here. It's like, I'm in a situation I've never been in before. And that, I think, is part of the fear for so many people, is this is taking me into places that I've never been before. How the hell do I cope with that? It's such a huge decision.
Yeah, and that is, it's like I've just written some stuff this afternoon about the telecall, and it was very much about, are you willing to be more? Are you willing to be greater? Are you willing to have your back in a way that you've never had it before? And yet, yeah, it can be like you're jumping off the cliff, because most people stay in a stuck situation because of the fear of the future. They don't know how they're going to provide for themselves financially. They don't know what's going to happen with the property. They don't know what's going to happen with the kids. They don't know how, other people's judgments, or what the family will think, or there's so much that is thrown into the mix, like you're saying, and it's like to navigate that and to be able to find your way through that density of the soup that we're in when it comes to relationship. Because then, of course, you've got all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that come into this as well, that also cloud your awareness. So, it can be, you have to be willing to commit to you in a way that you've never committed before. And really, really use the question, because it isn't about just staying or leaving. You don't just have two choices. You might choose to stay, you might choose to leave, but there are a lot of other possibilities in the meantime. So, yeah, my aim is to shine the light on other choices and other possibilities that people have, that when they're in that soup and that density, they cannot see the wood for the trees. I know, I was there for a long time. So, yeah, I've got a chainsaw.
And it's kind of interesting, isn't it, how we can, because we often will only see those two choices. Should I stay? I want to sing that song, should I stay or should I go now? And it's like, when you're in that situation, I've been there before, where I've known that something else should be possible. I desire something else. The only way I could perceive of getting out of it is just to chuck the whole thing away. And so we can end up absolutely sabotaging what we already have to prove ourselves right, that it should come to an end. It's like, that's where we're insidious to ourselves. We're unkind to the other person. We're unkind to ourselves. It's like, how do people stop that kind of self-sabotage and sabotage of everything around us?
Yeah, and you've nailed it. It's like this reaction that we go into. It's just all our defense mechanisms, all our coping mechanisms, everywhere we put our barriers up, we just go into this fight place, which, it's fighting. And when you're fighting somebody else, you're only fighting yourself. You're fighting for the rightness of your point of view. You're fighting to defend something you've decided is right. And it's like, when you do that, you just put the total blinkers on, and it's almost as if you're looking through this microscopic version of what's actually going on. We need to be able to pan out. So this is where the tools of access are phenomenal, to get you to that place of allowance of you. Because what we tend to do is we have massive amounts allowance for the other person, mostly. We have a lot of allowance for the other person. But if we've been in that habit of leaving us out, excluding us and including them more and considering their life and their feelings, again, we separate from us. We don't have that connection to what we know is totally true and honoring of us. So allowance of us is another major factor, because how do you ever get to know what works for you if you don't even consider what works for you? And that's this whole autopilot of making somebody else more valuable and making us less valuable, or our happiness less valuable. So to get out of that reaction and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, again, takes some skill and some navigation to be able to just, okay, I need to be totally present with myself with this situation. I need to be totally present with no point of view, which is so easy to say. But when two people are involved intimately, good luck.
Yeah. Because like, how many projections and expectations do we actually function from in relationship? Yeah. Both of others, of ourselves, or what relationship should be, what it shouldn't be. How many projections and expectations there of reality? It's like it is the huge elephant in the room that is so enormous that you don't even know it's there.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a gift that again, I think that Stephen Chutisa talked about this. I destroy and uncreate my relationship with my whoever it is every day. Destroy and uncreate your relationship with your enjoyable other. Destroy and uncreate relationship with yourself, with your family member, whoever it is that this relationship is with, so that you're not carrying forward all the stuff, the density of the build-up of what's occurred in the past. Because how do you create something if you're constantly being drawn back to the past, if you're living in the past, if you said this 5 years ago, or you did that, or you didn't do that? It's like you cannot create what you choose to have when you're constantly bashing them or bashing you for stuff that's gone in the past. So what if everything in the past, from this point forward, what if everything in the past is totally irrelevant? And the only relevant moment you have is right now. Because what you're being and asking for and choosing right now is what's creating a different possibility. It's creating a whole new future for you. So that's where a lot of people get stuck with the whole projections, judgments, expectations, and rejections and separations, because they're functioning from the past. And it might not even be that relationship. It could be stuff that's gone on with other relationships in the past too. So, yeah.
It can be very easy to compare who you are currently kind of enjoying with, or not enjoying, with people that you may have enjoyed differently in the past. And then you get that kind of comparison thing going on.
Somebody's just put in the chat room, how do you stop making the past relevant? So tricky. Yeah. So this is, again, it's like, what is it you truly desire to create? What is it you truly desire to have? Your relationship with you. How do you want to be every day? And if there's been a lot of the past affecting who you are right now, it kind of robs you and permeates where you're at right now, but you get these glimmers. So for me, what happened was I started to get these glimmers of what else is possible, and I got this sense of lightness and the sense of joy and the spring in my step. That's me creating my life for the future. Anything that was heavy was the past. I knew that wasn't what I chose to create. So, how do you stop making the past relevant? It is just, you constantly have to choose what's valuable to me. What is it that I truly desire to create and have? And whether, for a lot of people, it's not like, I want the house with the white picket fence or the 6-foot blonde or whatever it is. It's, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to be me. I want to be Shirley Valentine, that, like you said, on the movie. That you've got that sense of you back again, and that sense of exuberance and liberation. And the moment that you're in the past, that you start to go, and everything starts getting warped. So it's a demand that you have to make of you, no matter what. It's like, I am not living like this. And it is a demand.
Yeah. And that's the only way anything ever in our life changes, is when we make the demand of us to do it. And one thing for me, just to go back to that question about relevant, is for a question I love to ask is, if I wasn't making that relevant, what could I choose? Because that in and of itself just opens up a space of, if I didn't make it relevant, because that then makes it irrelevant, if that makes sense. So not to steal away from you, but I just got off. So I know we're coming towards the end of the half hour. Viv, can you talk us a bit through your telecall series that
Yeah.
starts later in?
Yeah, so I've got a 3-part telecall beginning on the 8th of April, which is a Sunday. I've tried to pick a time that works around the world. It's, fun trying to find a time zone that works for everybody. But basically, it's to address the questions. And thank you to everybody that registered and replied to the questions that I wrote when you registered. It was, if you could change anything, what would it be? And there were some great questions in there. So I would like to address a lot of what came up with the questions. So some people aren't in a relationship and they want to know why they're not having a relationship. So the 3-part call is going to be very much about connecting to what you know is true from a place of building a relationship with yourself. And a word that I heard Brendan use recently was creationship. And I looked at this and went, oh my God, that is just what I've been looking for my whole life. Creationship. I'm looking for somebody to create with, and whether that's, an intimate relationship, whether that's doing a business with somebody, whether it's hanging out on a Zoom with someone, it's what can we create together? Because what you can create on your own is phenomenal, but having somebody with you that desires to create with you as well, you can create 20 times the amount. So that's something totally different. And I think a lot of us, especially the people that have signed up for this call, they've done relationship. They've kind of done the meat and 3 veg kind of relationship, which is how everybody else does it. And most people are living in a very mediocre relationship. And for those of us that desire more. So for me, the call is very much going to be exploring what is creationship? How does that look for you? And tapping into really, really being with you on an intimate level to start accessing parts of you that you've probably cut off, parts of you don't even know. So many people come to me going, yeah, but I don't know what I want. And it's like that's for me is the most fertile soil to work with anybody. It's like, I don't know what I want. They feel so lost in that fog. And I'm like, yes, let's party. Let's rock and roll. This is where I love unearthing and getting in and, probing and agitating to find what is actually in there, because we all do know what we want. It's just been buried under so much stuff of projections and other people and making other people happy. So it's anyway, that's the telecall in a nutshell.
So 3-part series.
Yeah.
Starts Sunday the 8th, 3 weeks, so weekly on the Sunday. And 310 Aussie dollars?
$300.
$300.
Aussie
Why did
dollars.
I get 300? I don't know why I said 310. Anyway, it is what it is. So 300 Aussie dollars. Sunday the 8th of April, 3 weekly. And just one other thing, you were talking about creationship and the relationship with ourselves. So what would it take for us to have creationship with ourselves? Anyway.
That's a huge, when I started writing down the subjects that I'd like to talk about on the call, I'm like, oh my God, this could be a lot longer than 3 calls, let's just say. There is so much to it. And once people ask their questions, and like that for you, it's just, how do I create it myself? Most people, again, even if they're not in a relationship, their life is just ticking over in a mediocre way. It's not bad, but it's not what they know it could be. It doesn't have the juice. It doesn't have the liveliness to it that it can have. And when we're in that place of creation, every molecule of your body's on fire. It's like, yes, I'm alive. I feel great to be alive. What can I do with this energy today? What can I put this into? What can I create that would be fun for me? So
awesome.
Great question for guys to ask. Yeah. One of the other questions, just before we start wrapping up, the other question that I was asked a while ago was, what can I add to my life that will create my life to be greater than I could ever possibly imagine?
Yeah.
And the other one was, what is it I can add to my life that will make me more alive than anything?
I love that one. Yeah, because where are we creating a dying and not a living?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And being around people who are alive, it's like their enthusiasm just infects you. It's like you just want to be around them. You just want to hang out with them. And because that infection ignites in you what you know is there. Even if it's a bit dormant, sometimes we need a spark to ignite that. So I'm happy to be the spark. Yeah.
Is that mutual inspiration of constantly kind of just giving each other the leg up, you know, that, yeah.
Creationship.
Yeah, right. What would it take? Okay. Anything else before we just ask anybody else if they have any questions that you would like to add or finish?
I don't think so. I'm ready to answer some questions. If anybody's got any, they can either pop them in the chat or they can unmute themselves. If you're on a phone, it's *6 to unmute. Otherwise, unmute on your screen, the bottom left.
Yes.
Anybody got any questions?
Silence.
Gary said a while ago that the relationships that I can't see the whole picture. Can you see
that last are the ones that both are still creating and creating with each other.
Sorry.
So Gary said a while. Yeah. Gary said a while ago. Gary said a while ago that relationships that last are the ones where both are still creating and creating with each other.
Yes. So what would it take? And like I said at the beginning of the call, you know, this isn't about, yes, it's about relationship with your intimate other or your enjoyable other, but it's also about if you're looking to get together in a partnership or with a family member, you know, say a family member, you're not getting on with them. It's like, well, what can I create? How can I out-create this? What can I create with this person? And looking at the person, being honest and going, does this person actually want to create something else? And if not, find somebody else to play with. There's plenty of playmates on the planet. Plenty.
It's almost like when you have creationship or relationship, however you want to describe it, there's almost like a deal and deliver. What is the deal with this relationship? And, you know, that's where you get the awareness. Is this person going to deliver? Which is what we were saying at the beginning. You know, hey, I really want to kind of create with you. And that just doesn't, you get, because it just doesn't, it's not congruent.
Exactly. And this whole thing about that energetic congruency, you start to listen to what's in their head, not what comes out of their mouth. Because I think a lot of us are very trusting, we're very naive and green, and we just believe what comes out of people's mouths. And as we find out a bit further down the line, it's not necessarily so. So being energetically congruent, it's like you start to know, you trust that if something's a bit wonky or off, ask the question. So truth, do they desire to create this with me? And the other thing that really stood out for me was I heard Gary say, if they're not creating with you, they're creating against you. And that was another pivotal piece in the jigsaw for me. It was like, wow, okay, because when you get the sense of the energy when we're creating together, if you've got somebody against that, it's like trying to put the two south poles of a magnet together. There's just this awkward, repelling, heavy energy that you just feel like you're not getting anywhere. So how many of you feel like you're not getting anywhere in a relationship that you would like to get somewhere with? And what possibilities are there with that?
Hi, Viv.
Hello.
Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Alan and Viv. How are you both?
Great.
Good thing.
I'm very grateful for what you're talking about here. What I'm finding myself in the situation I'm in is I'm caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. And what I'm finding the most difficulty with is enjoying what I have got instead of not enjoying what I haven't got, if you know what I mean. And just a little bit of, obviously, the past behavioural habits, you know, as in, what they call it, you know, growing up in England and the usual, how do I call it? How do I say this? The expectations, great expectations, you know, unrealistic expectations, and enjoying what I have got and stop looking at what I haven't got. That's what I find the most difficulty with.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Yvonne. Thank you, because it's, you know, being grateful for what you do have. And this is, you know, going back to Kaz's question earlier, how do you stop making the past relevant? Gratitude is, I know we talk about this, but truly it is when you can be grateful for you. Number one, for the awareness that you're having that, hang on, something's not working here and I'm judging this, or I'm not happy, or whatever it is that you become aware of. Being grateful for your awareness, because often we ask a question and then we get pissed off, we get cranky with the awareness when it comes up. It's like, oh, I didn't want to know that. Or, you know, we resist what we become aware of, and yet you've asked for it. So the first thing to do is, right, how can I be grateful for this? How can I be grateful for your partner or whatever it is? And that way, you know, when I said earlier about the conflict, the conflictual realities that we live in, the conflictual points of view that keep us stuck, the moment you start to be grateful for you and for the relationship that you have right now, that fog starts to clear, because instead of looking at what's wrong, the more you look at what's wrong, the more you're going to see what's wrong. The more you look at, okay, what can I be grateful for? It actually starts to part the clouds. So, you know, I mean, we've all heard this a million times, to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. It's like, that will change so much to begin with. And then you'll start to see, okay, what else is possible? We can't fight fire with fire. The more resistance you have, the more resistance you build. It's like, okay, how do I go beyond the resistance? How do I go around that resistance? So, great point.
Well, I've actually got two things going on here, you know, like what I have got, and then something else has shown up that I've been asking for that I didn't realize I was asking for, showed up. And it's like I've got two extremes going on here, like the either or universe.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm sandwiched.
You're not extreme. You're not extreme, though, are you?
Not at all.
So what do you love about extremes? And what works for you?
Well, yeah, what works for me is the either or universe isn't working for me at the moment.
Yeah. So what else?
I've already said what I'm finding is what I'm really asking for is, for whatever I have for others, I'd like to have that for me.
Bingo.
That's what I'm really asking for now. You know, is the trust, and to have that kindness for me for a change.
So you know, ask and you shall receive. It's like there's a huge parting of the clouds and the light shining. It's like, okay, what would it take for me to have that and be that 24/7? That's awesome, Yvonne, that you've got that awareness.
Yeah, so I can see something there that I've got, that is wow, and something here that I've got that is not working. It's like, no, I need to find whatever that is in either of those in me.
Yes.
So I don't have to look for that in anyone else ever again.
Yeah.
Have you got a question that does that one?
How does it go? Well, you're starting to get the parts and pieces. You're getting the energies of what it is you'd like to have and be. It's like, great, what would it take for this to come to fruition with total ease? You're starting to sense the energies, you're acknowledging the energies, you're being them, you're embodying them, and it's making choices. So when I said, you know, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? If it matches that energy of, take a step in that direction. If it doesn't, choose something else. And it's like a muscle. We're building a muscle here.
Yeah. It's like those old sabotage things that are going on for me. You know, it's like I ask questions, and then when I get the answer, it's like, no, that's not the answer I wanted.
That awareness. God. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Both of you.
Thank you. How does it get better?
That's reading the blooming reference materials every day. It's
Okay. Anybody else before we go? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Right. Cool bananas. Okay. So thank you then, everyone, for coming to play. I I'm sure Viv will be absolutely delighted if you want to come and play on the 3 calls as well. I get, you know, that really even just this intro has created a lot of people. So what's the three-part series going to create? So yeah, if you get that would create more for you and your creationships. Come and join Viv. All of the details will be sent in the replay, which will go out at some point today. So you can click on that link. We'll get that to you.
Thank you to everybody who joined us. I'm just saying a thank you. Oh, just got a question in the thread. I'm just saying thank you to everybody. What are the times of the calls? It's 7 p.m. on a Sunday evening in Australia. So I think that's about 10 a.m. in the UK. Is that right, Alan?
10 a.m. in the UK. That will be 11 a.m. for Europe. And that will be 5 a.m. New York time.
Okay. I know for New Zealand it's a couple of more hours ahead, so 7, 8, 9. I think it's about 9.
I reckon it will be about 11 p.m. Will it be for New Zealand? Because they're 13 hours ahead of me in the
they're
UK.
generally 2 or 3 hours because we have strange daylight saving here. But anyway, so yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Torgun. Tusen tak. Tusk. Thank you, Alan.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Right. Stop.
Thank you, Viv.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.